Fable 2 is an action RPG developed by Lionhead Studios, who are head up by story developer Peter Monalou. Once upon a time, an RPG was to be released for the original Xbox. Good old Mr. Monalou, as he has a history of doing, was extremely excitable and passionate about the product. This led to many promises that failed to make it into the final product, not the least of which being that it may well be the best RPG of all time. This game was Fable, and while it was solid and a fun action RPG, I don't know of anyone who thought that it achieved such an accolade. Now, a full generation later, we have Fable 2. Peter Monalou offered far more realistic promises leading into the sequel, and many players have the basis of the previous title to curb their own expectations. Games continue to become prettier, sound better, play tighter, and have a grander scope. Amidst all of this, does Fable 2 stand out from the pack, or is it time for Peter to take the old girl out back and just put her out of her misery?
We live in grim times indeed, if the young are too world-weary to believe in magic.
Right out of the gate, let's get one thing straight. Fable 2, in many ways, plays very much like the original Fable. In many ways, this is a good thing. You know, combat is intuitive, and even the most casual of gamer will be slashing heads with ease. You have melee attacks mapped to the X button, ranged attacks with guns or crossbows mapped to the Y button, and will, or magic attacks, mapped to the B button. Combat is fast, and mixing and matching these different styles of attacks becomes second nature after a very short period of time. You upgrade these skills by using orbs that correspond to the specific skill type by color. Red orbs, for example, upgrade melee, yellow orbs upgrade ranged, and blue orbs upgrade will. There are also green orbs that can be used to upgrade any one of these particular skills. By offering these upgrades, the game gradually introduces more complexity into combat at a rate of the player's choosing. While simplistic, Fable 2 rewards skillful play by offering experience bonuses for quick and skilled fights. Also mirroring the original, Fable 2 is one cohesive world. You'll never go onto a world map, but you can select and warp to any locations that you've previously been to, much like in Oblivion, or more recently, Fallout 3. One of the big complaints about Fable was that the world was simply too small. Fable 2's world is substantially bigger, and will take you considerably more time to explore than its forefather, but it's quite small in comparison to many other open-world style games. The main quest can be finished within 10 hours easily enough if you ignore all the side quests of the game, but honestly, why would you? Fable 2 has many optional quests, some of which are repeatable. There are also jobs that will allow you to increase your wealth, and also a simulated real estate market to play. Now get out there and become landlord to all of Albion. You can get married and have kids, and even elect to be monogamous or polygamous. Hey, whatever turns you on, you know? Of course, you can also portray yourself as an avatar of all that is holy and good, or as a demonic incarnate of evil. Your actions towards others, as well as your critical choices within quests, will determine your alignment. However, in spite of having so much to do, Albion really doesn't feel like a living, breathing world. It feels more like your own personal oyster that revolves around you and reacts according to you rather than making you a small part of the whole. In some ways, this is nice, as you never feel as though your actions are insignificant, but it also makes the world feel artificial. Adding to this sense of being alone in the crowd is the citizens of Albion. While they have some funny dialogue and can be animated, they lack any sense of individuality. While it's been said in many other places, it bears repeating. The only really memorable character in all of Albion is your faithful dog. You can get married and have a kid, but your family will never offer you the same sense of companionship as your four-legged buddy. The dog joins you during your childhood early in the game, and remains with you throughout the heroics of your later life. However, the dog isn't simply there to make you feel as though you've got a good friend. He's useful both inside and outside of combat. He'll assist in killing down enemies in combat as he mounts them and rips out their jugular, and outside of combat he'll bark whenever there's a treasure nearby. As minute as it sounds, this is really a fantastic mechanic that many games can learn from. This removes huge amounts of tedium from exploring, as you don't need to scour every corner looking for treasure. If there's a treasure chest in close vicinity to you, your dog will let you know about it. Visually, Fable 2 has a unique look. If you're familiar with the exaggerated characters from the original, you know what to expect from Fable 2. While hardly the most graphically impressive game for the 360, Fable 2 puts on a nice show. In combat, the spell effects are often quite flashy and impressive, and the game offers a nice draw distance as well. However, Fable 2's visuals aren't without their faults. Slowdown in combat isn't uncommon. It can get rather irksome, as in larger battles it can become quite frequent, particularly if you opt to use willpowers. There are also quite a few clipping issues with the custom clothing you mix and match, often not meshing well. While on the topic of your custom attire, I must admit that I was rather underwhelmed by the clothing options. There really aren't that many, and being truly original is rather difficult at times. However, Lionhead has remedied this situation somewhat by offering dyes. You can dye your hair or clothing once you have a dye of the appropriate color. These dyes never run out once you acquire them, so collecting more dyes offers more and more customizability. I found the music in Fable 2 rather enchanting, actually. I was fairly unimpressed with the original score, but in Fable 2 I found myself often humming a number of the tracks. With so many fantasy titles on the market, I found it refreshing to find one that, I found somewhat memorable. The voice acting in the game is great, with the distinctly English citizens of Albion offering up some ridiculous lines in response to your antics.
What the hell are you doing?
Having a bit of fun. What's it to you?
Ah!
Like most of Fable 2, the characters really don't take themselves seriously. I felt the sound effects were a bit more generic than the music or voice acting, but everything feels appropriate. Blows sound crisp, and your footfalls appropriately reflect the surface that you're walking upon. The story in Fable 2 is really nothing that you haven't seen before, and quite honestly, it's rather predictable. But all in all, when I look back at Fable 2, it's a fond, though simplistic tale. Perhaps Lionhead could use a beta writer to help them end their fables. Nonetheless, Fable 2 is one of those games that's greater than the sum of its parts. It's simply fun to play. Though it likely still won't be praised as the greatest RPG of all time, Fable 2 proves itself to be a very solid, fun action RPG that most anyone can and should enjoy.
Albion, a land bursting with life, beauty and light. Its people unaware of the darkness that awaits them. Now they face their greatest threat, and they need their greatest hero, you. Unless someone better comes along. A champion who will make a stand. In a world where only the brave and the reckless venture far, while the rest hide cunningly in the bushes. And only the foolish don't pack emergency underpants, battle fiendish evil, and journey into its very heart. Live by your wits, or rule by sheer strength. Be feared, be worshipped, be mocked, be loved, be a legend. Who will you become? Fable